Today we'll be making omelets and practicing our knife skills. So let's get started with our onion. Remember that it has a top and a root, and you need to cut through that top to the root. When you're done with that, trim off the top and remove the skin. We're going to start our dice by slicing horizontally through the onion, not all the way through, but down towards the root, leaving the root intact and not breaking up the onion. And these planks that we're creating will help our dice be perfect. So once you've done the planks, cut through it to make like a julienne, and then we're going to turn the onion and finish up our dice. Remember that you can use all of it except for the core and the root, so don't waste it. Now we're going to start cutting our red bell pepper. So remove both of the ends, which can be used later, cut down the side, and you're going to cut away that white membrane that holds the seeds and the core in place and remove that. Make sure to get all of the seeds out of there. These long matchstick shapes are called julienne if you remember, and you can see how they can become uneven a little bit because of the interior membrane of the pepper. So I'm going to show you a way to make a very perfect julienne by removing some of that membrane. Always use a bench scraper to move things around your board and from the board to other surfaces so that you're not carrying around a knife. Now to make that perfect julienne or perfect bell pepper garnish, remove some of this membrane. Now be careful that you don't cut yourself, but by removing that, you're taking away a lot of the moisture that the pepper has in it. You're not removing so much flavor, but you're creating a pepper now that is fully red all the way through, so it'll make a very nice garnish or addition to any kind of dish. So you can see how perfect those are compared to our julienne that had the membrane intact. Now you just line those up and you can make a brunoise. I'm going to use some of this later to garnish my omelet. Now you can see here the differences between membrane removed and not. Now I'm going to start with my mushrooms. I'm just brushing off any dirt that might be stuck to them. You don't want to wash them because they absorb water just like a sponge. So slice off a few slices and then use that flat piece down on your board for stability and continue the slicing. It's much safer this way. So for our omelet, each omelet takes about 1.5 eggs. So for every 2 people, you'll have 3 eggs. And in the end, you need half a cup of egg in order to actually make the omelet happen. So get those eggs in there, season them with salt and pepper, and add a tablespoon of water for every egg that you have. Beat them up real well and put them aside until all of the toppings that are going in your omelet are prepared. I cooked all my toppings ahead of time, starting with the item that took longest, which was the onions, followed by the peppers, and then the mushrooms. You're going to need to get your pan hot, and I'm using about a teaspoon of butter to get it started with. Let that melt. Don't get the pan too hot. You don't want smoke here. We want to cook our eggs gently. So we're adding half a cup of our egg mixture. Make sure you stirred it up real well to evenly distribute the seasoning. And then start stirring the eggs with a heat-proof spatula. These are the ones with the red handles. They're heat-proof. Doesn't mean that they're not going to melt, so be careful not to leave them on the heat for too long. So move the egg around, and when it starts to coagulate, stop moving it because you're going to end up with scrambled eggs if you continue to stir. Let it firm up, and then we're going to flip it. Now that the egg's firmed up, I'm pretty much ready to flip. So in order to make that happen, I need to get a little bit of fat under the egg in order to get some movement. Now before you flip your egg, everybody should go home and put some dry rice in a pan and practice flipping it. The motion we're using here is a push forward, flick up, and pull back to catch the egg. Once the omelet's flipped, shut off the heat. There's enough heat still there to cook the egg the rest of the way, and you don't want to overcook it. So put all the toppings in there, top it with cheese, and fold it in thirds, and then you're ready to garnish it and serve it. Go ahead and slide that egg right onto your plate, and I topped mine with the brunoise of red bell pepper and some green onions.